Greetings, sir and sirettes, and welcome back to From the Depths with me, Lathrix, and of course, welcome back to the Sandbox mode. In today's episode, we're going to be doing a very quick little bit of retrofitting for the Widow, and then getting straight back into the action, and fighting the Onyx Watch once more, but now with a new weapon. Today, we are using lasers. I finally caved in and decided that I think now is the time where lasers are a lot more balanced, a lot more fair, and a lot more fun than the early game. We have essentially completely destroyed the Onyx Watch. All that really remains now is to clear up a few fleets and attack their base proper. Of course, I'm speaking of the Onyx Throne. So, with that in mind, we're going to quickly build this thing up and make a small laser system in this cavity, which honestly is a very poor size for a laser cavity, so I'll probably be lowering this section by 1, just to make it nice and simple for me, and we're going to be testing it out versus them. So, I'll be right back once I've done a bit of work. I'll most likely cut a lot of the building work today, purely because I want to get into lasers in more detail in the future when I build a battleship. Well, time for the first test. So currently I'm not really looking at the stats at all, as I've mostly made this thing out of laser cavities and laser pumps. Basically meaning it's got all the draining ability of the engine sorted, just I haven't quite fine-tuned the range or anything else. I simply want to see just how much energy this kind of turret is going to take up. I've elected to use 3 of the combiners just because I'm looking for more collateral damage than pure pinpoint accuracy with something this small. So let's see how this does. This is a Marauder, which it should be hooked up. It is, okay. Sadly, the missiles are going to get there first, which is not particularly handy, but there we are. Laser shooting, and obviously we're not really looking at damage still. Okay, yeah, that's using up absolutely no engine power whatsoever, which means we have a lot of room to play around with the strength of this thing, which is exactly what I wanted to see. Fantastic. Okay then, back to work for me. Test 2, and it's already looking very promising. Although it doesn't have aim point selection, so it's shooting everywhere, the damage it's dealing is already looking a lot better, and I'm less than halfway through building the thing. I have, however, compromised to only 2 firing pieces because, well, there's just not enough space underneath the hull to keep a good engine drain. And actually, even now, it's still struggling a little bit. So what I'm going to do is continue my work, and hopefully next time it'll be very close to its finished state. It's still very cool, regardless, though. Time for, hopefully, the final test. So, I've lowered the maximum damage and increased the engine draw massively, resulting in a far more stable laser that always hits for its maximum damage. It also, of course, still has a ridiculous amount of AP, so armor really isn't a problem. What I think I'll spawn in is the Warden, which is quite a heavily armoured small ship of the Onyx Watch, and we'll test out that. I kind of want to test out against the Warden because it's not testing it out against the enemies we're really going to be facing, but at the same time, it does have the armour which I seek to test on. And, well, there goes 2 armor barrels, and it's already sinking. I think that's working just fine, even if right now it is, of course, firing underwater, which has a whole host of problems. But there we go. Okay, I don't really want to test it out any further, as I don't like testing weapons out too much before we get into a live fire scenario. So I'm going to armor this thing up, add a turret base around it, and we'll be right back in the campaign with our newly retrofitted Widow Mark II, which will probably have its own unique name in the coming future. And so the retrofitting begins. Thankfully, the Widows can heal each other, and since they're normally so close to each other, this will be a very quick process indeed. Especially since the Widow Mark II hasn't lost any of its healing capabilities. Okay, so there's our sub, there's the other Widow, I'll change you as well. I think I'll change all of them, because if we're going to do this, we may as well do it on the extreme and have every single one of them sorted out. I may even make a 5th Widow. Not sure just yet, but for now we'll just stick with the 4 we have and see how this actually helps out our fleet. Isn't it glorious? The industrial grey glory of the Lathrixian fleet. So, we've run into a bit of an issue. Over such a long range, the lasers simply aren't accurate enough. This is a mixture of having too many firing pieces and simply having the barrel not long enough. Now, that could be fixed quite easily by either adding extra to the barrel length, which is most likely what I'm going to do, or simply having the ships a little bit closer. The other problem, of course, is that the lasers are travelling through the water far too much. Again, an issue of being so far away and not being a particularly tall ship. So what I'll probably do in the next battle is have them a little bit closer and see if they do better. This simply didn't go all that well. Although the bunker's having fun clearing them up anyway. Something else I just thought of is, however, what we could do is change the aim point selection so it allows the guns to fire at random blocks once more. This would enable it to destroy things like gun placements, the top of the ship, and thus would, well, allow it to be this long range and still do damage without worrying about the water and increasing the size of the ship. That is one possibility which I honestly think might be the best option. I don't really want to add much more to the ship. I am really happy with the damage output even at that range. It's just shooting under the water all the time, amongst other things, is causing it to not quite live up to its potential. So after those two tests, I've changed a few things. Firstly, I've increased the amount of accuracy increasing segments on the turret, also known as the one and only laser optics, but I did notice something else I didn't even consider would be a problem, and that is the weight of the turret itself. Now, the weight overall is actually absolutely fine. It's not too top heavy, the ship still sails absolutely fine. However, until I just cut off the front of the armour, the turret was so heavy, when it was turning to face the enemy, the entire ship was dipping into the water, meaning that no matter the height of the enemy, the laser was firing through the water, causing all sorts of problems. So I've shrunk it a little bit. I'm going to remodel it a little bit now as well. The glass is kind of open here, and although I do kind of like that look, it's obviously unfinished, and hopefully in the next test it might do a little bit better with the lasers entering the water far later than intended, and hopefully not always entering the water. Time for try number 3. I've came back into the sandbox mode briefly to have another go with the Widow, the laser variant, and have a bit of a change of the turret shape. So first of all, I would just like to test this out, as I just did, against the Terravolt, which I'm completely blind to see, there we go, just to show the sheer crippling power of lasers, on both sides in fact. If we watch our gun, it'll very quickly aim for the weapons and dislodge them. And of course, this works really well because the enemy is close enough for the accuracy to be very high, and of course, it's not underwater, meaning that, well, the light alloy and metal of this thing is just being absolutely eradicated. Now that was a pretty high-end ship, and these lasers tore it apart in seconds. So I think the big problem is, I haven't really made a bad laser, but the purpose I want for it is not what I've built around, which is causing all sorts of issues. Another thing I want to quickly test out is how well it is at actually fighting flyers. So we're going to quickly go ahead, spawn in a white flyer plane. Let's go with, I don't really know any of these off by heart. Let's go with, aha, there's one I know, the Wrecker. Now that's a pretty large flyer. Not oversized, and pretty much a very similar block count to our little ship, so it's a pretty fair fight. There it is, in all its spinning glory. And let's see how well this actually does versus it. Okay, it's firing at it now, already destroyed a chunk of it. Of course, its aim point selection makes it go for the more vulnerable sections. It didn't do too much, but it has stopped it firing already, so that's pretty darn good, and in a second it should be able to shoot again. There we go, and completely melted it. So, the laser is definitely a very good weapon, but at long range versus enemies such as the Onyx Watch, who simply hide underwater, but hide all of their vulnerable sections of their ship underwater, I don't think the laser is a particularly good choice, because in case anyone's not aware, lasers get weaker the further underwater they go. So the longer they travel underwater, the less and less damage, up until the point of they're pretty much worthless, perhaps doing 10 damage or less per shot. So I think this is a good variant, but it's a very specialised variant that won't do particularly well in the current situation we're in. So we may have to pursue a different option. But for now, I'd like to continue pushing forth into the Onyx Watch's area, and we're going to try and take some more land. I'll be working on this off camera, and we'll bring these in once we are against the other factions and hopefully their flyers. This is essentially my anti-air, which is really weird as it wasn't what I wanted it to be originally. Onwards. Missiles are fun, and so are lasers, but it's hard not to absolutely adore the sheer power of 9-barreled cannons. And so melts the Bulwark. Goodbye, Bulwark. Thank you for being such a good sport. So, what I've quickly done is I've changed over the Widow's AI to no longer have aim point selection. This way, they're actually firing at things other than the things underwater. I can always change them back after we defeat the Onyx Watch, but for now, this actually means they are being of some use, as they are hitting the top of the ship, rather than simply trying to fire underwater. Ah, Spite, you just melted the Bulwark. 9 barrels of deliciousness, although you did take a hit in the face, which wasn't very pretty, it must be said. I guess that's the problem being so short range at the time. Whoops. After that thing goes away, we should be fighting an Alcazar, I imagine. Hello, Alcazar. Have you met the Spite? Have I ever seen an Alcazar be attacked by Spite? I don't think I have. Bit of lag there for some reason or other. Oh, sadly the turret's not back at full speed, but even so. Goodbye to your front. Well done, Spite. Well done. I think soon I will make another version of the Spite a lot better than the current version, although the turret is fantastic. The chance of it losing its main turret is a bit too much, and I really do need to separate the turret into lots of 3 or lots of 4 rather than the single lot of 9, which has all sorts of problems attached to it. All the firepower in the world is there. It's 9 barrels with maximum damage. They're all maxed out in terms of their stats, but, well, they don't always actually give the damage to the enemy, and that's the problem. But well done, little laser things. You actually helped out in that fight. And so we look for a new opponent to face. So I may have actually forgot that the enemy were in this direction and started wandering off far too north. I think it's about time we put to rest the Onyx Watch and start designing some new ships for the future against the multitudes of other enemies we are yet to face, such as the Twin Guard and the Steel Striders. Here we go, the first battle against the Onyx Throne, and we are using the Gorgon. Because I just sort of had to, we are going to be using the White Flyer Fortress against that of the Onyx Watch. And they're going to be nice and close to each other so we can see all of the action. I have a horrible feeling the Gorgon is about to be absolutely annihilated, because the Onyx Throne is actually a pretty good vessel, if nothing else. Let's warp on. There we go! Come on, Gorgon, I believe in you, kind of. Well, I don't, but still, I just want to see you win. Wow, did I really just die? Well, that's cut straight through the little seating area there. That was a shame. Forgot that the Onyx Throne actually has anti-missile systems as well, so the few weapons we can actually use with the Gorgon are being countered. I've only just realised, but the Gorgon is actually moving forwards because there's a resource zone, I think. Actually, no, is it? Was it all in my head? I think it might be in my head. I'm not sure if that's actually moving forward or it's the spinning blades giving the illusion of it. It's not actually doing too bad. I keep forgetting how slow the Onyx Watch guns actually fire. That's really cool. Oh, you can't be serious. The Gorgon can't win this. So much lag from so huge of a vehicle versus another. Well, Fortress versus the other. How many blocks? Well, this one's only 12,000, but I imagine the Onyx Watch one's a little bit bigger, just because of the sheer bulk of it. Saying that, I don't really know. Oh, the Gorgon's looking a lot more damaged now. I think now that the initial armor on the outside has been kind of stripped away, I don't think it's going to survive much longer. That little segment on the left is just about holding on. Is it actually getting closer? You know, I can't tell. Is there a resource zone? Yeah, if there's a resource zone, that should be moving then, yes. Because it does have the fortress AI. Yeah, it's definitely moving. Wow, does that mean if it survives, it might actually be able to use its melee weapons against the other fortress? Oh, I think all the weapons are offline. Why are the weapons offline? Perhaps lack of ammo, perhaps lack of AI. No, it's definitely not the AI, because the guns are still aiming, or at least some of them are. You can do it, Gorgon! Get in range of that little spinny weapon. Well, the shots are going straight through the Gorgon now at this point. Ah. That doesn't look very good. Got to be said. The AI is up here, so yeah, I think the AI has been knocked out as well. At least one of them has. On the upside, it's a lovely window. Yes, the Gorgon fired! Haha! It did some more damage before its demise. Please don't hit these two men. How is that actually hanging up? What's actually holding that? Oh. Whatever was holding it isn't anymore. Or at least a part of it. I don't... Gorgon, you're breaking physics here, buddy. Warning! Fortress turbine power running low. And there it goes. To be honest, that did a lot better than I expected. It actually did quite a bit of damage against the throne before it finally went out. I think it had some really lucky shots at the start and took out a lot of the throne's AI and such before it could actually start healing properly. But as soon as the healing started, then, well, it just completely annihilated it. Well, thank you very much for trying, Gorgon. You can now go back to your resource zone, and now we can actually send in the true force, which of course are the bunkers and the widows. The widows should do quite well against this, actually, so actually before the battle starts, I'm going to quickly retrofit them back to how they once were, so that they have the AI sorted, so they actually have aim point selection to start crippling the enemy before the battle even starts. And so begins the assault on the Onyx throne proper. It actually had a really weird load in there, where one of the sub-vehicles which it has around its crown spawned in without the rest, and we had to kill that first, which was a little bit irregular. There's the lasers actually doing their job really well. They have actually got through there, but of course lag isn't showing the damage correctly. They have already took out a weapon and are doing pretty good in terms of crippling various components. The two bunkers on either side are doing remarkable work. The missiles are stripping away the armor, and the turrets themselves doing a phenomenal amount of damage. Oh, it's finally shot a big volley at the first bunker, and will it deflect? Most of them did. One of them went through, but only 1 out of 6. That's not too bad. Well done. Very powerful shield systems. Also, well done to the laser system. You are actually doing remarkably well, even if you are looking a little bit scattered right now. I wonder what they're actually aiming at. Something here they just do not like. What are you aiming at? You did really well at the start. I'm not quite sure what you're doing now, though. That quad cannon, though. I would try and capture it, but I know for a fact this is one of those ships which is just so difficult. Oh, it's now classed as 2 damaged. I'm not quite sure if that's one of the crown pieces or the actual throne itself, but it looks like the throne may be going down here. It's not only the lasers that they're going for this, the other bunker's going for this as well. What is here? Which is diverting so much attention. clearly bugged out, no idea what it's targeting there for. Volley of missiles there from the trilobite. Yeah, the 2 damage section is simply one of the crown pieces. It would have been a bit weird for this to already be 2 damaged. Yes, that's it. Another gun just went offline from the Onyx throne, and honestly, at this point, I really can't see it actually surviving much longer. The bunkers have hardly taken any. In fact, how much damage have we've taken? No damage whatsoever at this point. Any damage that was taken at the start has been healed, and the shots have completely wrecked most of the insides now of the vehicle. I just wish everything wasn't targeting whatever apparently is floating here. I wonder where the last AI is. There's one. Is it worth trying to capture? Yes, it is. Okay, let's turn off everything. Off. 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 I know, I am using the more difficult screen here, but I'll just turn all these off and I'll quickly jump on to the throne. Alas, I should have thought it through and I should have simply gone to the better AI screen, the actual AI screen, as you can see here, but I thought that I could be faster. Nope. I think it's too late now. I really do. The 2 damaged, I'm almost certain, is actually coming from the throne itself. And although we are now on it, which is very, very dangerous, I think it's over. Goodbye, Onyx Watch. You were a fun opponent, but ultimately, as soon as we learned how to build even slightly better, they were overwhelmed. This was a long time coming, and now we have to actually remake our Gorgon. But with that, I'm afraid I've ran out of time for today's recording. If you have enjoyed this pretty scatterbrained episode, then of course, likes, favourites, shares, comments, all that good stuff helps out me, helps out the channel, and most importantly, shows that From the Depths is a series you wish to see continued in the future. Off camera, I'm going to be working on lasers a little bit more to fully understand how to make a better, smaller ship, because ultimately, I know I've done a lot of mistakes here, and I will go out and learn about them. And of course, we will choose our next opponent, be it the Twin Guard or be it the Steel Striders. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.